Hey my loves, today we're going to dive a little bit deeper into manifesting your ideal version of your specific person, and I also want to tie in the topic of, boundaries and boundary setting, because this is something that does come up because in my community, especially the tarot community, and I do infuse, the concept of manifesting preferable versions of people. People often are dealing with cycles of hot and cold behavior, situationship. Some of you are just waiting for more consistent contact or more loving and respectful behavior from an SP. So I want to talk about this, and you do absolutely deserve to get the attention, the consistency, the love, the respect, the commitment, etc. And I want to talk about this in the context of boundary setting for yourself from a place of confidence and unwavering belief in your own power and your worth. Okay, so let me unpack this a little bit more. I know some of you have been feeling a little bit stuck in a cycle of hot and cold behavior or breadcrumbing. This is a very common topic, okay? And some of you, there's moments where you don't hear from your specific person, or maybe you have a pattern of this in your love life. Say you're dating and you don't get a text back immediately, or you get left on read and you start having thoughts spiraling. They're pulling away, they don't care about me, they're gonna leave me, maybe they're effing around. So if this sounds familiar, let's talk about this a little bit more. And I'm gonna show you how to break free from this cycle and how you can set boundaries, but also in a way where you know your own worth, and also understanding that it's twofold. In some cases, it is about setting a boundary where things are intolerable, and in other cases, it's about you actually rewiring yourself to react from a different place by embodying a different version of self and having a different self-concept. So let's start with a very common scenario. If you're the type of person who gets triggered when you say, as I spoke about before, don't receive an immediate text back, and you keep checking your phone and wondering why has someone not gotten back to me, then this is a very clear and obvious example of where you're in the wrong state. You're embodying a version of you that might have a story that you're not worthy of attention, consistency, or love, and so therefore you're in that state, and that state keeps reinforcing itself. You start assuming the worst. This person is pulling back, they're distant, they always do this, they're hot and cold, they're avoiding me, this is something that I always get. And by assuming those things, you start noticing even more of it. Okay, you might then get longer silences, fewer texts, or maybe even no response at all. Some of you may even get ghosted. This could be a very common thing in your love life. So hot and cold behavior and breadcrumbing starts to become kind of the norm. And a person's actions reflect that story that you're holding onto about yourself, about them, and about how you're treated. So here's the thing, guys. Your reality is a direct reflection of the version of you that you're embodying, though I have spoken about how you are absolutely able to change this, and we do change this and shift this all the time depending on different people in our lives and different areas of lives. So in the case of an SP or romantic situations, if you're reacting often from a place of feeling neglected, unloved, unworthy, well, you're going to tend to see certain patterns popping up where you feel that this is being reinforced, okay? Your inner beliefs about yourself and about how people treat you. Now, I want to invite you to start observing your reactions in order to shift yourself to the right state and in order to get the actual changes that you're looking for in your love life, okay? Or a specific person. So how do we shift out of these hot and cold breadcrumb cycles? So first of all, I want you to observe your reactions. So in the case of the text, when you don't get an immediate response from a person, start observing your thoughts. How do you react? Do you spiral into some kind of a story that you have, that you're being ignored, that you're not good enough, that you're unworthy, that this has happened to you before and therefore it must be inevitable that this person is going to pull away or not want you? It's going to show you that you're in a certain type of a state, or that you've been conditioned in some kind of a way to accept less than what you deserve. And it's not really about the person, it's about you understanding and accepting that you deserve more, and there is a version of you that embodies a different assumption about self, okay? A version of you that knows that you're worthy and that has more of a natural reaction to certain situations that are very different. So instead of spiraling into doubt or anxiety, you would be in a state or a version of a person who has a different story, that of course that person that you are texting with or your SP definitely wants to talk to you. You have a natural assumption that they care, that they're invested in you, and the silence that you're experiencing is temporary. You don't feel the need to chase them, you don't check your phone constantly or obsess over when they're going to text you back. You'll know that you're in the right state when your assumptions about yourself and your connection or connections, if you're out and about dating a lot, guys, naturally reflect a version of you that expects to be honored, respected, or receive consistency, etc. If you naturally expect to be pushed away, or you assume that you get less than what you deserve, then you will consistently select versions of people that will reflect that back. So it is important to embody a version of you that knows that you deserve nothing less than everything, okay? Now I want to talk about boundaries, as I mentioned at the intro of the video, because this is important. Boundaries are something that you absolutely can set, and boundaries are not something that we set for another person, a version of a connection or a version of a person where we are setting that boundary and expecting from that boundary that person is going to change. We set a boundary for ourselves, okay? Because we no longer want to entertain a dynamic or certain types of behavior that don't align with a version of us that knows our worth and our value, okay? Which is already in existence, guys. As I said, we can shift into that state all the time. But here's the key: setting boundaries out of frustration or anger, hoping that another person will change or conform because of what you said, how you said it, or some kind of a test that you're putting on them, is not in fact doing so from a place of confidence. You know that you've shifted into the version of you who's worthy of love and respect when you do so, set a boundary from a place in the knowing that they will inevitably reflect that back to you. You don't have to hope or beg. A boundary is set simply as a reflection of your new identity or existing one that you've stepped into. One that knows that you have high standards and you have an assumption that you are deserving of more and that you will definitely receive more. Boundaries are not a test that someone's going to get the message. It's an empowered choice for you to honor yourself and step into the version of you that knows your worth and your value, okay? So reclaim that identity. To make this shift, you have to let go of the old story you've been telling about yourself, okay? And if this is a recurring pattern and you get consistently triggered, it's obvious that there is a story about self that is unpreferable, and therefore you may be consistently seeing this reflected back to you in your personal reality. For example, your specific person might be avoidant, inconsistent, hot and cold. And to break free from this cycle of these behaviors, you may decide you want to set a boundary. You may want to disconnect from that version of the connection, but you're also going to find if you step into a preferable version of reality, you're going to be reacting very differently to those types of behaviors. The version of you that knows that you're worthy and deserving of consistency, respect, and love, and embodies that version consistently, will notice that the people around you will naturally begin to reflect that back to you. And when you set boundaries, you're not trying to force anyone to change or manipulate them. You're simply choosing to no longer accept anything less than what you know you deserve. And there is, at any given time, available to you a shift, and a person absolutely will come back in and reflect back to you the version of you that you're embodying, if you allow the 3D to catch up to that, okay? So the beautiful thing about setting boundaries, guys, from a place of self-respect is that you will not have to tolerate situations that don't serve you, and no more hot and cold behavior, and no more breadcrumbs, and no more situationships if that's what you're dealing with. And you should never be scared to step away from a situation that is not in alignment with what you deserve. When you stop accepting less, you stop reinforcing the old story, the old version of self, and the old version and assumption about how people show up for you. And the world around you will start shifting. People will treat you the way you treat yourself, and the kind of relationship or connection you desire must inevitably unfold naturally, including your specific person, never mind the history that you've had. And I'm not encouraging anyone to continue in situations where they feel like they are experiencing violence, or they feel, you know, that they're in danger, guys. I want to make that clear. But if you're feeling unsure about whether to set a boundary or not set a boundary, now's the time to step into your power. Boundaries are about you and not a specific person. So when you start setting boundaries from a place of confidence and self-respect, or even speaking up for yourself, you will see relationships transform. And in some cases, you don't need to set a boundary per se. You need to recheck yourself and decide what state that you're in, okay? So in the example of the texting that I explained earlier, if you are feeling very reactive when a person is not immediately texting back, ask yourself what state you're in. Is this because you have a natural assumption connected to that person and they're reflecting back some unfavorable story about self? Do you need to set a boundary or react or spam them or chase them? No. You may then want to ask yourself, who am I being? Am I being the version of self that knows that I'm worthy of consistency, love, respect, adoration, and attention? Yes, I'm in that state. Yes, this is who I am. I'm going to trust that that person feels that I'm amazing, because absolutely I am, and everybody does. So of course they do. And you will see in cases like that, one, you will no longer be triggered. You will no longer be reacting from an old version of self. And two, you will actually see that they will turn around and you will get that consistency, and you will go from what maybe you've experienced in the past as hot and cold behavior to hot, 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 okay? Allow the outside to reflect who you're being. If you're a person that knows you're worthy of being chased, adored, respected, committed to, and your SP absolutely wants you, loves you, adores you, chases you, wants to talk to you all damn day, if you can stick to that decision to be that version of self, or you stick to the decision to be the version of self that knows that anyone would be more than lucky to honor you, respect you, commit to you, etc., then you will receive that. Boundary or no boundary, guys. I hope that makes sense and was helpful for you guys, and I can unpack this further if you have any questions. Let me know in the comments. And in the meantime, guys, remember, you are the power. You have all the control. The outside is going to reflect you, who you're being, your natural assumptions about what you deserve, what you expect in love, and you can absolutely have anyone, anything. You are limitless, and you can absolutely have a preferable version of a connection. Until next time, guys, I'm sending you so much love, and I'll see you in the next one.